Hello everyone, and welcome. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We're looking at some decorating. I have, and you're not seeing double here, two shells that are exactly the same, and what we're going to do with those two shells is we're going to turn them into two different types of houses. So on the left we're going to build a traditional home, just the exterior, and on the right we're going to build a contemporary style home. So we're going to take one shell and we're going to create two different homes with it. I thought that would be a great way to take a look at some of the ways that we can decorate a home but make things different at the same time. So this is going to be our traditional home here. So I'm going to keep the roof at the same default height that we get in the game as soon as you put it out, and I'm just going to copy and paste it across and then across. Alright, so we're just going to bring this in until it meets in the middle, just so it doesn't overhang. And then we're going to fix it up around the back. So actually I'm going to pull that out a little bit more. And I'm going to copy and paste. Use the Eve arrows to bring that up. Now, if you want to know a little bit more about the different roofing arrows and how to roof a little bit more in detail, I do have a roofing tutorial on the channel, so if you have a wee look at the roofing tutorial playlist or tips and tricks, you will find that there. That should help you out with a little bit more roofing information. But we're going to pull up those eaves and bring that eave in, and we've tidied that up some. Okay, so we've got two identical houses here. What I'm going to do here is not do anything. What I'm going to do here, however, I'm going to bring this down by 4. So in general, a contemporary home is of the now. So it is modern styles and modern techniques and modern materials and modern looks. So one of the thing with a contemporary home is generally it will be a lower pitch on the roof. So the pitch is the angle at which the roof sits. So I'm going to bring this down by 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So just hold down the left mouse button while you pull the arrow, and that'll bring you down in line. 1, 2, 3, 4. Generally I would copy and paste, but I've already placed them, so I won't copy and paste in that instant. So we've got like a lower pitch now on this roof, which is more of a modern vibe, and this sits a little bit higher, as you can see there. Whoop, whoop. There we go. When we're looking at traditional colours or traditional houses, traditional house is any house that takes elements of history or historical architecture with it. So it might have touches of maybe Victorian or Georgian. Any home that has touches of the historical elements to it, that is what's classified as a traditional style home. Generally means something that is more decorative in nature, so it'll have roof trim, it might have an exterior trim, freezers, it might have corbels, it might have spandrels, so it's going to have a lot more to it. When it comes to a contemporary home, it's kind of that bridge between a traditional home and a modern home or an ultra modern home. So when you think about an ultra modern home, it's very minimalistic in its decorative elements. Where it gets interesting with a modern home is the way that it's shaped, very geometric, asymmetrical, different sort of mixed materials. Contemporary I sort of see as that bridge between traditional and ultra modern, in the sense that it does have a more minimalistic look, and it does actually bring in the whole mixed materials thing as well. So in a simple house like this with the contemporary side of things, I would probably only use 2 different colors, like a shingle on the top here is possible as well. We talked about just a second ago about modern houses, how they'd have mixed materials. So with a contemporary home, you would look at mixed materials as well, and we're talking about natural materials, sustainable materials, rock, stone, concrete, tiles, plaster as well. So you can mix it up however looks good, but have a look at sort of different contemporary homes to get an idea of how they do it. But a lot of the time they'll have a lot of wood in their builds. So we're going to look at some of the siding that you can get in the game and just choose a style. Now when we're talking about contemporary homes, we're talking about quite tidy, neat, clean lines. So something like this, for example, wouldn't suit a contemporary home. It's far too rustic and rough. So that would not suit the vibe of a contemporary home. Obviously that's horse ranch and we're talking about ranch buildings, but you get what I'm saying. So something like this is a lot tidier, and it's something that you might see on a modern home. It's also something you might see on a traditional home, but it's all about how you present it and how you style it that makes the difference. So a clapboard or a siding is something that you would see on both traditional and a contemporary home. So there is like a crossover there, but it might be different in the colors that you choose. The traditional home can get away with brighter colors, whereas a contemporary home does trend towards being more natural or more monochrome in nature. Not to say that there isn't color involved in a contemporary home and that you couldn't put color on a contemporary home. Most contemporary homes, when you look at sort of the pictures and that sort of thing of what's out there today, they do trend towards the natural side of things in terms of color. So I'm going to use the Suburban Dream siding. Now, I'm not going to actually do this all over. What I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to do wood on the front part of the build, and then we're going to use something else on the back side of the build. Okay, so we'll do that. Hold down Alt just to do like a specific wall, by the way, if you are decorating the wall, and then that doesn't do the whole building on you. So we can do like a mid brown there, and that's a very now sort of color. I think if you're using the Growing Together pack, I mean, that's a pretty good contemporary style pack as far as building goes. So if you are into sort of contemporary style, I would recommend that pack for contemporary building. It has a really great stone. I love the stone that you get with the Growing Together pack and the Horse Ranch pack. I think they're both great for contemporary styles. If you've got base game, I would recommend the Country Field stone. I think that's a great stone for a contemporary home as well. So we can look at like different options for the stone, but I'm going to look at doing just the Horse Ranch white stone at this stage, and we'll see how we go. I would probably building this house, maybe extend this out one. Let's do that. We'll do that on both. Just gives us a bit more of a clearer delineation between the different sections. You know what I mean? Look at that. That's a little better. So we've got some clear different sections there. So we're going to go with that, and then we can go like a little bit brighter on a traditional home. They are a little bit more adventurous with color, but the difference with a traditional home versus the contemporary home is that generally a traditional home will only have one color. So it'll only have like one color that works around. It's in the trim and the decoration of the build where they get the contrast colors coming through. So I mean, we can use the same sort of siding, and maybe we can go with like a nice dark blue on that. I mean, that's nice and charming, isn't it? And we'll color that up there. There we go. A nice dark blue. I mean, that's nice and charming. And I could actually see that dark blue on a contemporary home as well, very easily. It all comes down to how you style it. Now we can probably look at our roofing and our roof trim. I do want to pause here for a second and just explain something about exterior trims. So I'm just going to take the roofs off this one. Now, exterior trims are something that you will not see so much on a contemporary home. I can't think of too many reasons why I'd put it on a contemporary home. It could be possible that I might do a porch overhang. So let's add a ceiling here, and then I might bring in a little bit of a room here. So to create a ground level trim, because as you can see here at the moment, the game doesn't actually let me add any trim because it isn't what the game considers to be a second level, and you need to have a second level to be able to create this exterior trim. So how we do that is we create a false second level. So you can do this with the flat square or the platform tool. So we're just going to use the flat square in this case, and we're going to bring this in like that. And so what we've just done is we've created a false second level to the build, and now we will be able to add our exterior trim. So if I wanted to add like a bit of extra trim here, because I'm doing a flat roof like that, and I wanted like an edging around it, that is probably where I would use a exterior trim with a contemporary build. Otherwise, I would not use an exterior trim with a contemporary build that I can think of. We'll just delete that and remove that ceiling. So we won't be doing that here. So yeah, so a one level house, what we need to do again, as I mentioned, is you can create a room. So flat square platform. So if you do it with the platform, you'll just need to be aware that you'll need to drop it down, The reason that I might do it with a platform is that I can actually see what I'm doing initially. It can be a little bit tough to see what you're doing if you're using the flat square tool and you're not necessarily used to doing the whole create a room kind of thing. The problem with creating the exterior trim is that some of the trims actually do show through the roof. So you do need to be careful about which trim you use. But trim is very, very stylistically great for a traditional build. This is something that you want to use. So you can go for something like this one here is too bulky and sits through the roof. I'll just get the roof back on at this stage. So you can see they've already added like that decorative element to the build, adding those sort of pretty exterior trims. But yeah, you do need to be careful with the roofing, which one you choose. So in general, these two are too wide. I actually haven't tried the castle one. Okay, so that's all good. So this is from the Castle Estate kit. You see how much it adds like the pretty to the build? I imagine the Eco Lifestyle one, that's too big. But this one here from High School Years is all good. And then these thinner ones here are also all good. To add, no, that one's not. That one is, and that one is. So let's go with the High School Years one because it actually sits really nicely on a house and adds like that decorative element to it. We want to decorate as much as we can. Now, as far as roof trim goes, our options are some base game ones. I probably wouldn't do the beveled roof trim. Out of the trims from base game, I would choose either the square roof trim, or it's the square roof trim there, or the beveled out trim. That just adds like, it's got like a couple of angles on it, which I think are really cool. But if you have for rent, then I would go with this trim here from for rent. I mean, when you were talking decorative elements, look at that. Isn't that decorative and pretty? It looks like lace around the roof, which I absolutely love. So I think that's so pretty. So I'm going to leave that there. So we want to make it decorative and pretty, like it's been an iced cake. When it comes to contemporary homes, we would probably go with the beveled out or again the square roof trim. So there isn't a great deal of difference when it comes to the roof trim, but if you do have a decorative option like the for rent one, then I would take that. I don't mind this one either. Either of those are good. I mean, I think that's also super pretty. Maybe we can try that one. Have a play, see what you think. Generally, I like to choose the roof color before I choose the roof trim because the color determines obviously the color of the trim that we're going for. Let's go back and do the color of the roof. So the types of roof tile that I like to use with a traditional home are the weathered wood shingle, which is what we've got on the roof now, and that's your default roofing. The Wouldn't You Wonder composite roof, the Happy Haunts shingle roof. This one I think is too cottagey, but too rough. You could go with Nature's Mosaic composite roof, depending if the colours work for you. There is more leaning towards Oasis Spring Desert Mediterranean style builds, but you could probably get away with that. And also the carriage house roof is another option that works really nicely with traditional homes. That's probably the main ones that I would use out of all of those, and potentially the rustic roof that comes with Horse Ranch, although I don't love that as an option. But let's go with the carriage roof for now because I think that's super cute. And in the black is fine with me, and I'm quite happy with white trim as well on that. So let's take a look at the contemporary roof. So the styles of roofing that I look at for a contemporary roof are things that are quite minimalistic and I guess simple, but clean lines is really big when it comes to contemporary builds. So things like this roof here, even though I don't like it, is my own corrugated castle. I think it looks too dirty, so I never use that one if I'm being blunt about it. You could go for something plain like the Gravel Delight. I don't know how you'd make that work, but it's a potential. And then same again with the concrete. If you wanted to go that direction, it's a possibility. Clean lines, minimalistic, so that does work. It's just I don't know how great some of the colours would be, but I mean I think the black you can get away with. But the main one that I tend to use is the black sheet metal roof. So that is my go-to roofing when it comes to contemporary housing. I use that all the time. I love it. Sometimes I need to stop using it, but I do love it. And also you could get away with the solar shingle roof. So this is from the Eco Lifestyle pack and also the other Eco Lifestyle packs. Any of those roofs do work. I don't particularly like this roof because it's odd. The tile roofs that you get with Snowy Escape and For Rent, I think do have possibility within the realm of contemporary, but I do feel like they do have a specific look to them that does lean towards Asian or Southeast Asian in influence. So it may depend on where you are in the sim universe as to whether or not that works for you. My main three that I go to are the scalloped pine roof. Did I talk about that one? No, I didn't. Okay, scalloped pine roof is the other option if you want to go for a tight tile. It's probably does lean a little bit less fashionable than the steel roofs, but I think you can sort of make it work in the right home. I don't think it works so well with like the stone, and it works fine with the wood. So it might depend on which mediums you choose for the exterior of your build. Main three I would go for is either scalloped pine roof if I wanted to go for a tile, the sheet metal roof, which is my fave, or the eco lifestyle solar shingle roof. Those are the three that I really like to use. Now, looking at this build, I would probably go for maybe a brown on the roof trim. So let's try that and see how that looks. So we've used the beveled out roof trim, and I probably want to go for that one so that it matches that color there, and then we've got a contrast against that color there. But once again, just have a play. I mean, see what you like, and if you don't like it, change it. That's the thing. It's just like by experimenting is how you get to know how your decorating style kind of works. And that's how I found out about my decorating style and how I like things, is just by experimenting. I don't like two different roof trims when I can help it. So now let's look at a couple of other things. Maybe we want to build in a little bit more of a dramatic entrance. So I've put like a little porch here. So a couple of things that you could do to make I guess what we're going to be doing is looking at street appeal. When you're building a house, one of the things that I do like to do in The Sims is think about how it actually looks from the street. Does it look interesting? Does it look boring? Because if we were saving this in the gallery, how is it going to look from this angle? Does it look like an interesting home? Sometimes I'll look at how the entrance is created, and maybe I'll add like a little bit more in. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to add to each of the houses a little entrance area. With a traditional home, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste the roof, bring it in like this, and just squidge it in. And we will copy and paste like that, and we've got like a cute little entrance area. Now if we wanted to add the trim to that, we would need to obviously extend our second level. So we're just going to do that by putting that there, and now we should be able to wrap our trim of choice around the front. Ta-da! And bring it out like that. So we've created like a little bit more of a point of interest to the front of the house. Still keeping with the traditional style, but added like a little bit more interest to it. Now we're not going to add any exterior trim to the contemporary house, but what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to bring in a third color. The other things that we talked about that you could potentially use on the outside is like a plaster. You could look at a brick. It'd have to be a modern brick. I think with the traditional home, it does lend itself more to a brick, to a clapboard. Would you use anything else in there? Maybe a stone. But those would probably be the main elements that you'd use on a traditional home. So a clapboard or a siding, a brick, or maybe even a stone. Although stone sort of more lends itself towards a cottage, but that's a traditional build as well, I guess, in a way. The contemporary home, however, that is like your natural materials. So we're looking at stones, woods, plaster, tile, and maybe a modern brick as a potential as well. So you could look at something like those, depending on what the vibe is. Because I've already sort of got that stony kind of thing going on, I actually kind of want to go for a plainer plaster, maybe in a darker brown could be an option. Just to have like a little bit of a contrast. So let's see if we can find something in a dark brown that would work. And if all else fails, don't be afraid of the filter button. The filter is a marvel. I love the filter. Now, if I was going to introduce a second wood, I'd probably do something in a vertical just to mix it up a little bit. Maybe a little bit darker, possibly. Again, that's one of those things where you're going to have a play around and just see what looks good. In this case, we are going to go for this one here from Island Living. I do love this natural curves thing. And what we're going to do is something a little bit different from the traditional house, we're actually going to bring in a half gable roof. Bring that in, flatten it in. We're going to copy and paste that. You can't copy and paste roof trim, by the way, which is a constant frustration for me. So we could do it like that with a half gable. Let's actually try it with the other roof style and see how that looks. Because, you know, one looks better than the other. I mean, you want to go for that. And we'll just change the color of that up there. So that's another option. And you could actually, you know what I would do with this is I'd actually maybe bring this in. I would build like a little bit of an extra wall here, bring this in like so, and then bring this out like that. And what you've done is you've actually just created like quite an interesting shape. And then I'd reflect that shape again, bring the eaves out again, and we'll just do the suburban siding there and there and there. So you could do something like that as well, which is quite an interesting shape at the front, which is quite cool. And you could still do that with the gable roof that we've already made as an option as well. Just to add like a little bit of a point of difference to the entrance if you wanted to do something like that. Or you just get rid of this entrance area altogether. And what I'm going to do is actually going to extend this out like this and like that, and extend the eaves out again. And I'm going to pull the eaves up. And what we've created is like a wholly more interesting shape than what we had. So bring that in nice and tight, and then we're going to bring this in here nice and tight. And I missed the trim there as well, just like that. So we've got like a whole sort of different shape to the front of the house, but it's quite an interesting shape, you know, adds that sort of little point of difference to the build. Let's have a look at chimneys. So a thing like a traditional home, now that might have a dormer. So a dormer is this little thing here. So it's something like this that you get with the likes of Discover University and Horse Ranch and Cottage Living, for example. Get Together has one as well. So there's a few different dormers to choose from. This generally works on probably a 2-level home better than a 1-level home, but you know, you kind of get the vibe. I would probably put this on a 2-level home on the 2nd level. On a 1-level home, it just looks a little bit weird, to be honest. But I just wanted to show you the option. So a traditional home might have the dormer thing going on. Then chimneys. So things like brick work really well, obviously, with a traditional build. Something like this that comes from cottage living. I drew a blank on that one. There's a nice dark blue one there. So it's just a matter of finding the right place. Once you lift it up, it does actually get hard to place again. But chimneys, I tend to place them round about where I have the fireplace, just to add like that sense of realism. But like having it like sort of at the back or at the point where it does join, quite often does work quite well with the chimneys. So something in a brick or a stone does work really nicely with a traditional home. With a contemporary home, generally like the plaster or the stone could work really nicely. Something like this, if you've got like the pack and you've used the stone from a particular pack, so say if we use the stone from, this, from Growing Together, and we went with that. So say we were doing like quite a heavy Growing Together kind of home, then we look for the pack and match in the stone from there, and it does make it more coordinated. Chimneys are chimneys, but those are sort of generally the vibe I would go for if I'm using brick on a contemporary home, which you sometimes might, particularly if it's like a industrial vibe contemporary home. Then you might use a brick, but generally with a lot of the chimneys for a contemporary home, I would generally go for either the stone or the concrete / plaster ones. So what else we got in the way of decoration? So for a contemporary home, I'm not going to look at anything else basically. I wouldn't look at dormers. I mean, if I'm doing like an apartment building or something like that, you might do like a roof vent and blah blah blah. But for a contemporary home in general that we are building right now, unless we're going to put in like solar panels, which you might do, I mean, we're talking about sustainability as a thing for contemporary homes, so maybe we want to put in like a couple of solar panels on the back there. But other than that, we're not going to look at anything else for the roof. For a traditional home, however, we may still be looking at things. So we could be looking at things like little spires. They could be part of a traditional home. Maybe we want to have like a weather vane or something like that up there. That can work on a traditional home. You might want to run like the roof trim along here. So something like that I mean, that could be something that you want to see on a traditional home. You can get away with that sort of thing on there. Whether or not it suits it, I don't know, but you can certainly try. Maybe we want to go with white. This is probably something I'd probably put more on a Gothic home, but as we mentioned, like a traditional home brings in elements of a historical style, and obviously, you know, things like your Victorian or Gothic kind of home does bring that in. So we could look at something like that, and we could trim it with a little spire on the end. We're going to be inspired by our spire. This is more something that I'd put on maybe a church or something like that, but you could bring it together, bring the roof together by doing something like that, which is kind of cute. You can have all sorts of little things from here, little doodads. Now let's actually create ourselves some spandrels. Oh, we could do a corbel as well. So a corbel is a little corner piece, basically. So it supports the weight of ceilings and roofs. There's no reason why it can't be pretty too. So you've actually got quite a few little options with the corbels. So there's a few packs that have them. So corbels you can put under like the roofing like this in the corners. Where I might use that, for example, is if I was doing a little roofy roof. And we're just going to do a little hard gable roof, bring that in, copy, paste it, we can taste it and decorate it up. Okay, so we've got our little thing there. So what we might want to put there underneath there as a roof support is like a little corbel. And it actually can be quite effective as a little decorative element. Let's go down here and like have it on the side here and maybe on the side, yeah. I'll bring that in one like that. And you can sort of see the way that it sits under the roof. Now these ones are obviously a little bit too long for the roof, so let's bring that out a little bit more. And then you can see the way that the corbel supports the roof, which I think is quite neat. So that could be like a cool decorative element. You could get away with that, I think, on a contemporary home, no problem. Let's leave that there for now. And you can definitely get away with it on a traditional home as well. So let's see if we can find a nice corbel that will not stick out quite so much. This is the kind of thing that I'd probably look at doing last because you still don't know what you're doing with this area here. Yep, right. Okay, so what we're going to do now is the porches. So we're going to add a little front porch and we're going to make it pretty by putting spandrels on. So how you add spandrels is by creating a room. So it's very much like with the exterior trim where you've got to create a room. Now we've already created a room because we've got our porch there because I've used a platform for the porch. So now what we're going to add is our columns. Then we're going to add a spandrel. So the spandrels are basically little decorative things that can go along a porch. So as soon as you've created a room, you can create the spandrels. If you have not created a room, the spandrels won't go up. So create your false room like we've done there by putting our little platform base down, and then we can extend the roof out from there. So maybe we want to go like a flat, let's try flat roof on this here. So decoration is always a process for me. Like, you know, if I want to have like a certain look, I want to try something out, then, you know, I will. We definitely, it's too wide for this space here. So we need to bring this in. So what if we did like this? And what if we did it like this? Well, then we've got a decorative little porch area, don't we? So let's bring in our corbel again. So I want to use this one from Cats and Dogs. I think that's pretty. So that's going to sit there. Let's bring in this roof here. And I think this sticks out a little bit. So maybe we could get away with our eaves coming back in and sticking out like that. I think we can get away with that. So let's bring in our roof trim. So we used this one here. Maybe I want to change it. But you know what? I probably don't think it's a little too wide. So I'm going to bring those in and have that sticking out, and it sticks out a little far. So we're going to bring that in as well. Just tidy that up some. So that's another option that we could do to have like an interesting front entrance. And we've brought in more decorative elements with the spandrels, which I think is super cute. Now with this, we don't need to do anything. No more decoration for that. So now we are going to bring in some stairs. 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to lift these each up using our foundation tool. So when we're looking at foundations, it's kind of the same sort of theory again as we have for choosing anything when it comes between these two builds. So maybe you look at something that has a little bit more width to it, a little bit more decoration to it for a traditional home, whereas a plainer foundation does look good on a traditional home, on a contemporary home. Once again, if you can match, why not match? So if we have, say, this one here and we've used growing together, why wouldn't we match on the foundation going through? And then we have maybe something a little bit more trim worthy? Do we want to add in like a different color? I'd probably just go like a plain white like that. By the time you sort of have your plants and stuff around it, I mean, it all does come together nicely. So we've got sort of more of a traditional home there, contemporary home there. Now we're going to add in our stairs. Once again, it's about materials for stairs. So you could go with your basic sort of plaster stairs on either house. That's fine. Things like your brick, that's going to suit more of a traditional home. Your wooden ones are probably going to fit more into a contemporary home. Otherwise, it's just a matter of color, really, when it comes down to it. These ones here are the unremarkable staircase. I think that sort of would work on either kind of home, but as for colour, is it going to have the colour that we want? Probably not. With this one, I'm going to use the Island Living Steps of Wood, because I think that's a fairly close match to there. With these, I'm going to go with more sturdy stair and just run it all across the top there. So we need a colour for here. Something like this from Cats and Dogs, the sloppy paint. It actually works really nicely. For this, again, wood or stone. I mean, I don't think there's too much difference. It's just about the colour, really. I probably would use like a contrast colour here. Maybe something a little bit darker, like the hand scraped wood. Maybe not dark enough, or you could bring the grey back into it as another option. We'll see how that looks when we get the door in. The other option here, if we don't like this, because we've brought this in, what I'm going to do is actually bring that like that. Okay, that makes me happier. Then we can put like our little corbel. We've got our wall trim and we've got our spandrels. So we want to add in fencing. Stylistically, the simpler, cleaner lines would go with a contemporary home. Something where you've got like banisters and fluting. I mean, that's going to go with a more traditional style home. So something like this from the Vampires pack, something like that with the railing and stuff. I mean, that could be more contemporary, but because you've got like the little inset thingy in the stairs, perhaps that's more traditional. I mean, some of them are probably going to be somewhere in the middle. Anything like this one here from For Rent, I really like this for a contemporary home because it's got like some really clean lines. Like you could go glass, works really well for contemporary homes, and also like plain stone could also work really well on a contemporary home. For a traditional home, the picket fence, I mean, come on. You can't go wrong. But there's also, like, once again with For Rent, there's a more decorative version which works really well on a traditional home. Something like that from Cats and Dogs, that could work really nicely on a traditional home. So more decorative, you want to go traditional. Plainer, you want to go contemporary. That's just the gist of it anyhow. So I might actually just choose something like a slightly different spandrel. We've got lots of different options. I'm going to go with the Strangerville corbel because I think that's really pretty. So let's go with that one, and we need to choose a nice fence to go with that. So let's go with the Strangerville fence as well. That's quite pretty and looks traditional. Strangerville is a great pack for traditional style homes, by the way, as well. And let's look at fencing for this one. So we want to go clean lines. Horse Ranch, the sturdy fencing is actually really nice for a contemporary home. I would actually use this on a contemporary home. I love that it's got like sort of the mixed black with that as well. I think that's actually super cute, and you can get it down like that. So I actually really like that for a contemporary home. For other contemporary home stuff, I might go with, so this one here, horizontal fencing, the slatted fencing from Patio Stuff Pack, the Seasons fencing. That could probably work better with a craftsman home, but it's simple enough that I think you can get away with it with a contemporary home as well. The other style, I would probably do modern home. Definitely the bamboo forest one you can probably work with. Also the metal art deco fence. Deco fence. The not a leaning but still cool iron fence, definitely very contemporary. This one here, wooden horizontal fencing, contrast wooden fencing. You can do this from Snowy Escape, low snowdrift fence. This fence here is probably one of my favorite modern fences, which is a Tuffle privacy fence. The mega fencing is also good. This low fencing you can make work as well. This is my favorite, one of my favorite base game fences for contemporary home, which is the mega fence basic. The glass, any of the glass ones are fine. You can probably make this work as well. It's got a little bit of decoration, but you can make it work. The grass fences are great for contemporary homes. plain wooden fencing, and that is about it for contemporary homes. So as far as doors go, I like to go for something with like a nice wood. If you're not going for like you could go for like sliding doors for sure. Definitely an option with a contemporary home. Like having like quite a wide glass door is very in. So I like the Get Together slatted door. So sorry, this is a semi-permeable door, modern wood door. So this is base game. This could work really well as well. I like the modern wood door with frosted glass insets. That's also nice for contemporary homes. I actually like the plain wooden door as well. So there's actually quite a few little base game options for a contemporary home. The eco lifestyle door, that also works really well, and also this eco lifestyle door. That's about it as far as those go. I'm probably going to go with, actually I missed one. There is this growing together door. That's the one I wanted to go with. Because it matches. So, you know, perfect. But it's got the glass on the other side. So a big thing with contemporary builds is natural light. So you're going to naturally have quite a lot of windows when it comes to a contemporary style home. Less so when it comes to a traditional home. But we'll come back to the windows in a second. So for a door with the traditional home, you probably wouldn't have, like with a smaller home, you would have maybe a smaller door and maybe something with like panels on it. Maybe some other decorations. Maybe it could have like a little bits of filigree. It might have like a fancy handle. Whereas ones with from the contemporary are definitely a lot plainer and simpler. So we could have something like that, 2-panel door. So once again, like the panels and stuff on it. Whereas when we looked at the contemporary door, it was more about the panels of wood on there, or the slats of wood on there. So that's on the whole, and then decorated with the glass, and they're very natural, whereas this has a little bit more design on it. When we're looking at windows for a traditional home, I would probably look at Seasons, Strangerville, Get Together, Cottage Living, and Base Game. Those are probably, maybe Discover University as well. So those are probably the main windows that I would look at. I'd probably look at something maybe with a shutter as an option, and it would be a smaller window. I probably wouldn't do too much. I mean, you might have 1 or 2 basic bay windows, but you would never have anything that would go pane to roof. So that is a modern look, it is, or a contemporary look. It isn't a traditional look at all. I think we'll do something with cute little shutters. I think that would be super sweet. And you might not like have heaps and heaps of windows in a traditional build, whereas a contemporary build you would probably go a little bit harder on the old windows. So let's go with those over the Discover University ones. Cottage Living ones don't have a crisp white from what I could tell. So like that's the Cottage Living ones there, but like the shutters are different colors. Okay, so we've got some windows in there, and I think they are a good fit. That's just the base game ones. If I was going non-shutter, then I might look at, it is basically the opposite when it comes to contemporary homes. So we want to go natural light as much as we can. We want to go from floor to ceiling if we can as well. You might look at a contrast color as well. That's a possibility. So think about whether or not you want to go that option. I'm using the floor to ceiling windows from Eco Lifestyle because the wood color works really nicely here, and I'm just going to change it to grey here. But you use the windows to actually shape your build, and you can certainly see that more in modern builds than contemporary builds, but I think you see it a little bit with contemporary builds as well, where windows are used to actually add shape and dimension to the build. So something like that where you use it sort of the corner and then you sort of have like a line running down, so it's just creating like some geometric shapes with your windows as well. I kind of want to do like the same here, but we've got the corbel in the way, so I might get rid of that. Sorry, corbel, rest in peace. Because I want to create like that little corner look and that clean line going down. So think about your window placement and the way that it shapes your house and the lines of your house as well. Does it create like a really nice column of color? Can you use your windows to create like little pops of color in between? So we're getting towards the end of this. It's been me banging on for quite a while about it, but I think we've sort of got the idea of like different styles using the same sort of shape house, just by the way that styles that you use, by the different colors and that sort of thing. And obviously landscaping will come into it. Landscaping will be a lot plainer and simpler when it comes to contemporary homes, whereas it'll be a lot more decorative. Just like the traditional house, you might have a more abundant garden, you might have more flowers, whereas this might be just your green plants on the dark earth kind of look. If we're looking at outside with lighting, we might be looking at something like this from Cats and Dogs. So like your little lantern, a little bit more traditional looking, you know, traditional looking vibe. Whereas something like this, I would probably go for the vintage sconce from Growing Together, which is my very favorite of all the lights in the whole wide world. But it is an amazing light, and it's got, once again, minimalist sort of clean lines, whereas this has a lot more decoration to it, not so much with the clean lines, you know. So that's sort of the main takeaway, I think, from these two styles of builds is more decorative, less clean lines, more minimalist, if that makes sense. So I'd probably put like another little balcony there and dress that all up. But I hope that sort of helps you when you're thinking about how to decorate houses. Add that decoration and what the difference is between a contemporary home and a traditional home, and the way that you sort of shape them, and thinking about street appeal and how you can add to that street appeal and make the houses look more charming. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys had fun decorating with me on the exterior, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye bye.